Hey, welcome to episode 38 of Creatures of the Realm. We got a really good show for you tonight. I am going to talk about the ghoul. What is it that makes a ghoul good for your campaign? Well, we're going to talk about that tonight. But first, or second, I always do that. I don't know why. But second, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central, we're going to continue episode 4 of The Light. Join us. We're going to have a great time with the guys, and it's going to be a good show. Join us there. But without further ado, the ghoul. What makes the ghoul so wonderful? He's a medium, undead, chaotic evil. The ghoul has an armor class of 12, hit points 22. Those are the things you should know about the ghoul. Now, the ghoul, you know him in film, in books, you know, the classic ghoul. You have a vampire, the blood is taken, and that person becomes a ghoul. Well, in Dungeons and Dragons, it works a little bit differently, just a tiny bit. You know, they have a lot of beetles. They look disgusting. They're not as cleaner as a lot of the storybooks tell you. They're a corpse, basically. They're still undead, but they can, according to legend, they can go out in the day, you know, if that's a vampire ghoul. But this thing in Dungeons and Dragons, they're undead, and they eat disgusting things like maggots and beetles. And I don't know about you, but I don't like eating stuff like that. Those are the things that you have to worry about. Don't get them mixed up with the film version of ghouls. The film version of ghouls is they're very different, and in storybooks. But depending on you as DM and how you want to run the ghoul, I mean, it has origins. Let's go back to the abyssal origin. Ghouls trace their origins to the abyss. Basically, they are transformed. A human is transformed to a ghoul, and it could be any creature, but they're more of servants of demon lore, you know. So when you know that, it's kind of changes the whole view and lore of the ghoul. Doesn't mean that you can use a different version of it. You can. Nothing wrong with that. What makes this ghoul cool? Alright. Damage immunity, poison. The condition immunity, charmed, exhaustion, and poison. Senses, dark vision 60 feet, passive perception 10. Now, all that is great. Great stuff for low-level characters. You could have a massive amount of ghouls, and it can really intensify your party, depending on how you choose to do so. And depending on how you choose to do it. I mean, you could have 10 ghouls going after a party of, 8, 9, however you want to run it. I mean, it's great. The more mass creatures you have in your game, the better the difficulty for the party. But this character is so low level that it's a challenge rate of 1. But alas, it has a bite attack, a +2 to hit, 5 feet of range, and that's pretty cool. Piercing damage, 2d6 +2. It's a nice whopping damage for a low-level character. Now, you could change up the hit points, make them a little stronger later on. It doesn't mean that the ghoul has to be that low. You could homebrew it Bring up the hit points, armor class, or keep the armor class low. Bring up the hit points. Nobody likes in combat to wait. They like to do something. So in my games, when we're fighting a homebrew creature, I try to keep that AC low, depending on the situation, depending on who they're running into as well. If you're using a random creature or you're using a creature in what you created, homebrew-wise. Now, you guys have to understand out there in streaming land, the ghouls per se are low. So you want to have the ghouls, more than one, maybe 4 or 5 of them. And if your party is low level, that can be a good challenge. You got to remember they're only about 200 XP's challenge rate of 1, but it's cool. Hey, if you get bitten by it in the neck or chest, whatever it is, he takes a chunk out of you or her, you're paralyzed for a minute. You got to make a con save of 10. And for a low level character, that might be a little hard. Hey, it happens. So again, you're using a ghoul. Be careful with it and how you play it. Now, what are the good qualities of the ghoul? What are the good qualities of a ghoul? Sorry about that. The attack. The attack is amazing. It is a claw does 2d4 plus 2. That's an average. I mean, you could literally do some damage. The bite, 2d6 plus 2 piercing. That's excellent. Now that to me is good damage-wise. What else is good about the ghoul? The ghoul is undead. That is amazing. Undead is I love using undead, zombies, ghouls, all that type of stuff. It's very advantageous, at least in my campaigns. The strength, the dexterity, the main 2 abilities that are great. Everything else is crap. Con, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. You're very low. But dex and strength, and that's where you get your damage being so high for a low level character. Now, you have to realize that when you are going up against a ghoul, and especially a whole bunch of them, they're going to bite you. And 2d6 plus 2, that can be very worrisome. It can. Because in a campaign, especially when you love your character, you love your character that you created, and you're going up against 5 or 10 ghouls, and you have a party of 6 or 7 or whatnot, you think at low level you got it handled, but these ghouls, they're rolling, the DMs are rolling good. You don't know what's behind that screen, so the creatures are going to attack, and if they attack good, you're going to get hit with 2d6. And if you have 30 hit points, 20 hit points, that's, round 1, they can max out their die. And if they get a 20, that's double damage. And they can knock you out pretty quick, especially a horde. And one of the things that you have to remember, and I'm sorry, you don't have to. I mean, just try to remember that. Thank you, that's better. Try to remember that when you are running the game as a DM, you have these ghouls. And we're just talking about ghouls for those of you who just joined us. Talking about ghouls, we're talking about how do they play in a campaign, story, one shot, how do you use them, and what's good and bad about them. I like the fact that their damage rating for low level characters 2d6 plus 2, and that's excellent. You max out, you're gonna hurt somebody, and especially if they crit, you're done for. That's double damage. I know some DMs don't use that. They don't like to use the do 20 or a d20 doesn't do anything. It just normal damage. And that's fine too. I mean, whatever you like to do. But ideally, ghouls as a horde, they're amazing. You get 5 or 10 ghouls coming at you, you're running, and they're coming at you to take a bite on your neck, your arm, your leg, and you're fighting for your life, and your party's running or fighting. Let's say they're fighting and they get 2 or 3 ghouls on you. You get bitten. That damage rating is pretty tough. That's 2d6 plus 2. So if they get hit, even if they don't crit, they get 12. That's pretty harsh. Okay, so the armor class. That's the good is the damage. The bad. What's the bad about this character? This creature. Armor class is crappy. It's 12. But again, when you have a party, you don't want the player to wait. You want the player to do something. Waiting is boring. You try not to. That's why you're trying to keep the armor class at a low level, high hit points. So you want to go ahead and do that if you are doing a homebrew. But if you're using the Ghoul in the monster manual, you could go ahead and do it that way. Keep the armor class at 12 and 22 hit points. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. You think that's a big deal at low levels? It is a big deal. And they can be a pain in the butt. So, the good thing is the damage rating of this Ghoul is pretty heavy. The bad, I just said the armor class. What else is bad about this? We're going to get to that. What's the ugly part of the Ghoul? The ugly part of the Ghoul is, well, it doesn't have a con. It has a 10, no modifiers. So if it has to save with something, it's gonna be toast. If you have a mage, if it has to make any wisdom roll, con roll, especially intelligence or charisma or anything, it's gonna be toast against a unit that has magic. And if there's a paladin in the group or even a ranger, they're gonna really bring down this Ghoul. Okay, that's the ugly part. Remember, the good. The good is damage rating. The bad would be low armor class, low hit points. And the ugly would be the abilities. Dex and strength are the 2 highest abilities. Everything else is crap. And making that creature, the Ghoul, pretty boring. Now, that's it for the Ghoul, but we're going to move on to another creature because it's such a mediocre creature. I'm going to give it an A through F rating. I want to give it a D minus. They're fun to use. You could use them, but again, a D minus for the Ghoul. I don't know about you as a DM, but I'd rather use zombies. Zombies are so cool. Ghouls are boring. And like I said, the good is the damage rating. The bad, the armor class and the hit points. And the ugly, strength and dexterity is the highest stats. Everything else kind of sucks. So I'm going to give it a D minus. If you're using a Ghoul, you could use it in your campaigns. It's not much for me. It looks pretty cool, but when you start digging into how it works combat-wise, strategy-wise, yeah, if you got a lot of Ghouls, sure. But later on in levels, the characters are going to be like, I'm untouchable. So you're going to have to homebrew that creature. Okay, move on here. We have the Ghoul. We're done with that. The Ghast. This is another type of Ghoul. It's Medium undead, chaotic evil. It has a stronger dose of abysmal energy. Wow. This is a savage beast. This guy, okay, let me describe him, because this guy's kind of cool. Cool looking. You know, he's got a bald head, kind of like a blue tint, long claws, a fork-like tongue. You know, has his tongue out all the way. It looks pretty disgusting. But let's see what the ghast is. Okay, he has 13 armor class, a little stronger than the ghoul. Hit points 36 already. You know, beefier. The abilities, you have the strongest dex, strength. Again, everything else is low. Almost matching the ghoul. Challenge rated 2, a little bit more experience. A lot more. 450. So what makes the ghast so good? Let's get into that. He has a stench. You know, you got to make a con save if you're a player, and you don't make it, you're going to be poisoned. And you have this this stench for 24 hours. That's kind of cool. You're going to stink. You're going to stink for 24 hours. That's not cool. Party of 8, and you got one of your players that gets nailed by this guy, he's going to stink. All right, let me see. All right, so he has this ability called Turning Defiance. The ghast and any ghouls within 30 feet of it have advantage on saving throws against effects that turn undead. Ooh. So if you got a cleric, paladin, any, you know, Boy Scout in your crew, you're going up against the ghast. The ghast uses that ability, Turning Defiance, and all the other ghouls or ghast next to him within 30 feet have advantage against saving throws against the effect Turn Undead. That's pretty huge. So let's take a look here. The bite, 2d8 plus 3. Wow, really good. Almost matching the ghoul. Constitution 10. You know, for your saving throw, if he claws you, because you get clawed by the ghast and you're paralyzed for a minute. In a minute, you know, that can be detrimental in a combat. So you got to repeat that saving throw, and if you make it, you make it. If not, then you're paralyzed. Now, paralyzed doesn't, you know, you're not turned to stone or anything like that. You're not petrified, but paralyzed can be a bit of a pain, especially in combat. Got to remember, when you're in combat and you have your players doing your thing, it's boring just to stay put. You want to keep everything moving. Okay, so if you don't have it moving, you have somebody sit there. You know, being paralyzed for a minute, not a big deal. But the difference between that and petrification is it's a slow process, but still, it kind of, you don't want that person just sitting there. You want to keep them in combat. And when you're going up against this ghast, if he claws you or does anything like that, it's going to paralyze you, and he's going to, you know, got to make that saving throw. That's cool. I kind of like the ghast a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. I do like the stench. It's kind of funny. And the Turning Defiance. Okay, so what's the good of the ghast? There's a lot of good of the ghast. There is the armor class a little higher. The hit points is beefier. He's beefier, 36. Again, his abilities, his bite. Well, let's go let's not talk about damage. His abilities, he can paralyze you. That's a big effect. He paralyzes you. So, what else is good about him? Okay, so he paralyzes you. That's number one. His stats or his armor class and hit points are good. That's two. Two good things about the ghast. And here's the third and fourth good things about the ghast. His stench, I think it's kind of funny. Within 5 feet, you got to make a con save of 10. You're going to be poisoned. Yeah, and, if you succeed, you're going to be immune to the ghast's stench. If not, you're going to be poisoned. And that's what he does. And it's not a stench, it's a poison. Excuse me, I thought it was a stench. My bad. God forbid the creature would be kind of cool. Anyways, okay, so it's called stench. And you're poisoned. That's really cool. So you have, number one, he's beefier. And he has cool abilities. Stench, turning defiance. You get hit by this, or anybody that's within 30 feet, a ghast or a ghoul, they can save against Turn Undead, which is a big deal. It could turn over your campaign or story. That's a big deal, especially if you're using a character or creature of this, if you're using this type of creature type. Brain fart. If you're using this type of creature. And then another good thing, which I like, is the bite. The bite is stronger, 2d8 plus 3, and the 2d6 plus 3 is a claw. Not only can it claw you, the player must succeed a DC 10 Constitution saving throw or be paralyzed for a minute. And that's not cool. All right, so that being said, what type of rating does the ghast get from A through F? So he's a lot better than the ghoul, a lot stronger, a lot beefier. He has cooler abilities. The ghoul's kind of standard. I'm gonna give him a C minus. Even though he's cooler and stronger, I'm giving him a C minus. He does a lot of good things in combat, strategy wise, but still, if you have a strong party, they could overwhelm him and the ghouls. Even with his abilities, he can still be killed at a faster pace. But if you look at his stats, again, a very disappointing con, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. If you have good magic in your campaign, this guy is done. I don't know what else to say, but he is. It's just the way it is. He is cool looking. Very cool looking. The ghast, how do you use him in your campaign? It could be anywhere, any environment. Depending on how you, as a DM, put him in your campaign. If you want him in a swamp, fine. If you want him in a town, fine. A town is overrun by ghouls and ghasts. Very cool scenario. But again, these creatures are used for low-level characters. And even if you have low-level characters, if there's good magic in that campaign or one-shot or whatever you have going, the ghast, the ghouls are going to be taken out quickly. So you have to be careful what you do and how you use these creatures. Are they fun? It can be. But if you're going to have the ghouls, the ghast, and a mix of zombies, now you're looking at some cool stuff. It all depends on what you do in your campaign as a DM. Because, guys, let me tell you, ultimately, DMing is all about the party. It's all about the people that sit at the table. ultimately. Remember that no matter what creature you use, it's fun. Whether I rate it A or F or whatever, it does. These creatures are made for your campaign or story that you could just enjoy. And your players. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a good horror story. You have a group of characters going out into the swamp, going out into the town, and then all of a sudden you have a horde of ghast, a horde of ghouls together, or maybe one ghast and a horde of ghouls. He being the leader, the ghast being the big bad, and everybody else is kind of like cannon fodder or whatnot. Have some of that be minions. However you want to do it. Just remember that a campaign, a one-shot, is all about the group and the people that are playing it. Because ultimately, we're all in it to have fun. If the players are not having fun, you're not going to have fun as a DM. And my recommendation, my advice, I recommend that you use the ghast, the ghouls. Use them. See how you like it. Play around with them. There's nothing wrong with it. Just because I won't like it doesn't mean that you will. Secondly, remember that in a story, in the story arc that you have going, these creatures are tools. You don't have to. You could have a human, changing into a ghoul. You can use the film version of a ghoul. You don't have to use the monster manual. Got to remember, it's your table. And the party that you have with you are all your friends and family or whatnot. And they all are there to have fun. And ultimately, that is the first rule. If you're not having fun, then, why bother DMing and why bother playing? That is my advice to all of you. Anyways, I am saying so many ums tonight. I am so sorry. So, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central, we have The Light, Episode 4, Season 2. Join us. We're going to have a blast. It encompasses, there's a lot going. I can't say anything. I don't want to say anything what's going to happen, but just be there, subscribe, like, get the word out. Your support is awesome. Anyways, thank you very much. Here I go with the I'm just going to be doing that all night. Anyways, have a good night, everyone, and I'll see you for DM Talk at 11:45. Bye.